Hi there. Welcome back to Northlight Photographic Workshops, and welcome finally to part 3 and what I'm calling 3.1 of constructing the LED box. Now, when I last left you, it was 10 months ago and one beer to go, as you can see. And I just wanted to apologize for getting to this so late. The problem being is that it's a pretty complex video, which is why I'm doing this in 3.1. But there were a lot of edits and a lot of clips, and there was a couple of mistakes I made in shooting it and some poor audio. So after 10 months, I've decided to just go with it. But as you can see here, I do have the box finished, and it is pretty nice. I'm really enjoying it a lot. And another reason that it took so long for me to get to this video is that in constructing the box and trying to make the video work, I just got to the point where I had to do some work. I had to get, excuse me, I had to get work done. I had a lot of printing and some print orders and things, so, and workshops to teach. So again, I apologize for taking so long to get back to this. Now, where we are going to begin here is with just creating, setting up the different strips with the different wires, and also setting up one complete circuit. So that's where I'm going to leave you in this video. And at the end of it, I'll come back to you, and we will then go on to part 3.2, because I believe that this first part here of the construction video is already at almost an hour online. I'm just going to set this up in different parts. So we'll know how many once I get it finished, okay? So anyway, here we go. Hey there, welcome back to Northlight Photographic Workshops, and welcome to part 3 in our series on building a LED UV light box for exposing our alternative process prints. Now, in episodes 1 and 2, we were gathering all of the components. In episode 1, I was talking about the box that was designed by Clay Harmon and how to get that. And in episode 2, we were talking about all of the other components that we needed to put this thing together. Most important of which is the reels of LED strips that we need. Now, these are very special. They are, let's see here, Vermont Photo Inkjet. This is from Inkjet Mall. John Cohen imports these specifically for this purpose, and it's high output UV light strips for exposing and curing. LED type 2835. It's the wavelength is the most important thing, which is 365 nanometers. Now, each one of these comes in a certain length that we're going to have to cut up. Now, it's all in one long strip. Now, what we have to do is we have to cut this into 25-inch lengths. Now, as you can see here, now on the close-up video, or close-up here, you can see that we've got the strip here, and in between each one of them and at each inch are these connectors, these copper connectors. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to count off 25 of each of these, and we're going to mark them very carefully so that we don't, it's a case of measuring twice and cutting once. It can be repaired. You can solder these back together again if you make a mistake, but it's best not to make that mistake. And what we will end up doing is cutting each one of these in between here, where you can see there's a line in between them. Now, we want to cut and split these connectors perfectly so that what we have is enough copper on each side to connect the LED connectors that we're going to be using. And that's these right here. Now, what we're going to be doing is each one of these strips is going to be coming into the end of one of these connectors, and we want to be able to have enough on there to be able to get in there and get purchase and make a good connection for our final output. So what we're going to need to do here, of course, is we're going to go through, measure these off very carefully in 25-inch strips and cut them. And then we are going to have to come back here, and as you can see, there is a little bit of solder on the end where these leads are. We're going to be taking these leads off. And there's also a little plastic protector here that we're going to be cutting off as well.
Now, what we're going to do there is use a soldering iron to heat this up, and using a little bit of this wicking material that you can see, we're going to be using that to heat it up, and we're going to actually siphon or wick that solder off of there, take these wires away because we're not going to be using these. Let's get on to this first. What I'm going to do first is measure this all out, and then I will come back to you and show you what we're going to do with them afterward. All right? So let's see. Let me get my, now as I explained, I thought it would be a good idea for everybody to have a tape measure. What I have is a long straight edge that I use for cutting my mats, and this will be very easy for me to stretch this out along at 25 inches and make my cuts. Let's just make sure that everything's right. Now, as I said before, some of these will drift a little bit, so they won't be perfect. They won't come off perfectly at 25 inches. You're just going to cut to the nearest one. But first I want to go through and I'm going to measure this whole thing. I want to make sure that I'm cutting the correct length, and then I will be back to you and we'll continue on. Okay, so I've measured this out so that I'm going to get seven strips at 25 inches each, and then I'll have a little bit left over at the end that I can always try to use to piece together if need be. But so what I'm going to do here is mark off where I'm going to be cutting, and let's see here. I am going to go up here to, let's see, 25 inches right there. It's going to bring it up. Like I said, this is going to drift a little bit, so this is going to be my first cut right here. Now again, I'm going to measure twice and cut once. Yeah, that's the cut right there. Now as you can see, I want to be very careful and cut right in between these two connectors here. There we go. So as you can see, I've got some connector left on this end and some on this end. So this is going to be the length that I'm going to be cutting these. So let me go through and I'm going to cut, let me make sure that that's measured correctly. Yes. Now I'm going to measure out another one. Right there is where it's going to be. 25 inches. Yes, right there. Good. Okay. I'm going to make another cut. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is go through all of these and cut them that length, and then I'll come back to you at the end when I have them all cut, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay? Okay, okay, so I've got everything cut up now. And it ended up becoming, like I said, they drift a little bit. This ended up becoming more often than not, they were right around 24.5 inches. Now that got me to the point where I had a good connector on each end so that I didn't waste any. And that gave me 8 strips per reel. So with that, now we're ready to go. The next thing that we're going to have to do is wick some of the solder off of here. Now, what happens is that in each one of these rolls, they're a certain length, but they have to be spliced together. So each one of them has one splice in it as well. And what happens with the splices, let me find one here that was spliced on the end. And just like the ends with the, here we go. So you can see right here, there's a little bit of solder on the ends of this. Now, it'll be on both strips, and it's just like this. So on those, we have to wick the solder off. So that's going to be the next step, is to pick those out and to remove the solder from them before we go with the connectors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get those aside right now for you, and then I will go through and show you how I wick the solder off, okay? Okay, so now I've got them all separated out into the ones that need to have the solder wicked off. Now, as you can see here, right there, it's got a little bit that's got to come off, all right? So it ended up being 9 of them that needed to have this done. So what I'm going to do now is get to the process of getting that off of there. Now we're going to need a little bit of the wicking. Now again, you can just take and probably scrape this off with an X-Acto knife, but it's a lot more difficult and it's a little less precise, and I like to do it this way. So what you want to do is have this wicking here, and we're going to take our soldering iron and heat it up. It takes a second to get this. This is a butane one. And once we're there, it'll be red hot up inside. There we go. And what I want to do is I want to heat the wick and not necessarily the solder itself. So let's do that. Get the wicking on there. Now we're going to heat the solder. Here we go. There we go. See how it picks it up off of there. And we'll go on the other side. There we go. All right. So there's one. Now we've got to do 9 more of those, and I won't bore you with each one, but I'm going to go ahead and get that done right now before we move on to our next step, okay? So stick with me. We're moving on. Now that we've got everything, got the solder all removed and everything out of our way here, it's time to start making the connections here. Now, as you can see, we've got a little bit left of the copper connectors on either side here. Now, we're going to have to keep these the same. One side is going to be the positive, the other side is going to be the negative. Now, what we need are these connectors that we've had here, these awesome connectors, and as you can see, each one of them has a connector on either end of it. Now, these connectors open up. Let's see how do they open here. There you go. They pop open like that, and you can see there's 2 little connectors there. And what's going to happen is each one of these is going to go underneath. It's going to slide in there. Underneath that, as you can see. And then this little connector is going to close on there. Now, one of the things you've got to be very careful about, though, is that there's these little clips right here. Now, you just want to be careful not to damage the light that you're putting it in on. So we're going to have to cut these little pieces out of here. And I can use a little bit of a X-Acto knife to do that. This little piece right here you're going to want to remove. So I'm just going to kind of cut that right out of there. There you go, and it removes that little metal piece in there so that I can close this up on the, let's see there we go. Now, I've got one side connected. Now, as you can see, one side is negative, one side is positive. Now, we're going to want to keep it the same way on all of them, and what we're going to do now is we're going to cut off one of these wires. We'll split that all the way out. Now each one of these can be used for both ends. So we're going to keep the red end here, as you can see. We're going to keep the red end. We're going to clip the black off on this end. Then we're going to come back on this end and we're going to clip the red off and we're going to keep the black. Now what we're going to do is take this clip and we're going to take this side of it and put it back over on this side of the strip. Okay? So let's do that right now. Let's cut off the red strip here, the red piece. There we go. And then we're going to cut off the black piece on this side. There you go. Now we've got another connector to use on the other end. So we're going to open this one up the same as we did on the other side. Let's get that thing open there. There you go. We are going to once again want to remove these little plastic, or these little metal clips right here. There's one out. Actually, I was able to take them out with my finger. So let me just trim this off here a little bit. Want to be very careful. You don't want to cut yourself. There we go. Now we're going to take on the exact opposite side. So this side is the negative here, the bottom end. So the top on this side is going to be the positive side. And we're going to connect that right in there like that. And we're going to clip it closed. There we go. So we've got one strip ready to go. Now, what I'm going to want you to do is go through each one of these strips. It's going to be a little tedious, but we're going to have to do this with each one of them, okay? So once I get this all done, I'm going to come back and we're going to move on from there, all right? Stick with me. We've gone through our most tedious part of this process here, and that is putting the connectors on all of the different strips that we've had. So here we are, we're all done. We've got 24 different strips, 25 inches long, and we've got them oriented here so that we've got the positive side here and the neutral side here, the negative side here. So now what we've got to get onto next is to work on the input control, and that's the plug where the power comes in. Now, as you can see, this has a little switch on here and the place where the plug plugs in. Now, each order, and what it is, it's this little switch here, and then there is the plug receptacle here. And there's also a little plate here that I've already put the fuse in. There's a little fuse that comes with each one of them. So what you want to do is orient this the same way as I have this one here. And that would be to take this switch, put it in so that it's facing the same way, so that the poles are facing the same way, and then you can go ahead and we're going to wire this, this input control. The next thing that we're going to do here is to wire up the control module and the input module. Now this is the place where your plug plugs into the unit. Now, if you can see this here now, I'd like you to orient it like this. Now, if you can see, this comes in two pieces. It comes with the switch and it comes with the unit itself. And I just want you to just put this circle over to this side and orient it just like this, and you press it in. Now, we've got this already done here. Now, what I also want you to do now is to take, we're going to wire the power wire and the neutral wire that go into this unit. So that you can run the switch to power the unit on and off. Now, what we're going to do is take about a 2.5 inch piece of white wire here, and then I'd like you to also take about a, say maybe just a little bit shorter piece of black wire. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking the insulation off the wire like this. As you can see now, we have the ends here. I'll twist them and get them ready to go. And then what we're going to do is take one of these connectors, these are spade connectors that we have, and we're going to put the wire in there and twist it on like so, and then take the pliers and squeeze down and crimp that wire on there really tight. And so what that does is it makes the wire connected and it's not going to pull out of there. Now, you go to the other end and we're going to put another one of these on there. Once again, crimp it down nice and tight. Really crimp it so that you don't get any slippage of the wire afterward. Okay, and then we have that piece. Now I want you to take the white piece, a little bit longer, do exactly the same thing. All right? Now what we're going to do is, if we're going to turn this switch over, we're going to look at the back of this here. And if you think of this as the power comes in on the top and the power goes out on the bottom, what I want you to do is take this small piece of black wire, which is the power wire, and we're going to take these two closest poles and connect them together. Put that one on there like so, and put that one in there also. Now I'm going to use the pliers to push down. I want to make sure those are on there really good. Okay, so now we've got that loop created. Now with the white wire, the neutral wire, we're going to do the same thing, only we're going to go to the next pole on the top here, and we're going to connect that one, and then we're going to take that over the top like that, and we're going to connect it to this next pole here. Okay, now that's going to allow us to turn the switch on and the switch off, and will allow us to bring power into the unit itself. So this is all set. Let's go on to the next step, and stick with me, all right? The next thing we're going to be doing here is setting up our connection poles. And we want to get these set up ahead of time so that we can hook up all the wiring easily later on. Now what I'm also going to do is, once we get this all hooked up, is I'm going to make the circuit connection before we start putting everything in the box, just to make sure that everything's working okay, and also so that you will be able to see kind of how the circuit is set up and how it works. So anyway, let me get out a couple of these poles, and actually I'm going to get out 4 of them, because I know that I'm going to need 24, so 2 times 12, you know. So, and then we've got these bars are made with black. This is for the load, and then there's the red, which is for the neutral that we're going to be using here. Now, that's how I'm going to set these up. So basically, I'm going to want to set up 2 of these poles with the red and 2 of these poles with the black. Let me grab my, my screwdriver here. Now, these poles have a plastic cap on them that you want to take off to begin with. Now this cap is so that once all the wires are connected, you can put the cap back on, and it stops anything from bridging the poles and shorting anything out. So we'll take that out like that, and what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the bridges with the 3 connections on it, and we're going to just connect it across one of these like this. And get that in there. See, now I've got that bridged, and I'll tighten that down. And what this allows this pole to do is have one wire come in, and then you can have multiple wires coming out of it. All right? So I've got one of those set up that way. I'm going to set up another one with these with the red for the neutral. And again, I will tighten that down on there. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with the 12-pole connectors. Take the caps off. Now, 2 of these I'm going to do with the black, and 2 of these I'm going to do with the red. Now I'll go back and tighten these down. I'll set up one more of these with the black bridge, and I will set 2 more up with the red bridge. Now you definitely want to make sure that these are all tight, because you want the connections to be sound. Okay, now that we've got those all set up, we're ready to move on to the next step, and that's going to be wiring this whole thing together to just make sure that everything's going to be working okay. All right, so stick with me, we'll get on to the next step here. Okay, so now that we have the poles set up, we're going to want to set up our LED strips. Now, I'm just going to do one for right now to get this test out of the way. So I'm going to take my wire stripper here, and we're going to take the black wire and the red wire, and we're going to just take off a little bit of the, there we go. Hang on one second. I'm actually going to get this done. We want to make sure we use the right diameter. There we go. So we've got a little bit of wire on the end there like that. And then we're going to go back over to the black wire. We're going to do the same thing. There we go. Got some of the insulation off. Now we're going to go with these other connectors that we've got here. Let's open these up. And these are like the little claw connectors on this, as you can see. Now, just going to take a couple out right now, and we're going to put one on one end of the light strip like this. So I'm going to take my black pole here, and I'm going to use my screwdriver, lift that up, and we are going to get this wire set inside of there and tighten it back down. So I've got my neutral side hooked up. Now I'm going to hook up my power side here. All right. That's ready to go. Okay, so I'll set that up like that. So now we're going to go back to our input control here that we've already wired. And what we're going to do to this pole here is we're going to add a bit of green wire there. And the green wire is for grounding the system. So we're just going to take a piece off like this and cut it with our wire cutter. And I'm going to strip the end of it. As you can see, wire that down, and we're going to take another spade connector and put that in here. There we go. Get that down inside. Take my pliers, squeeze that on there. There we go. Now, we take this to this bottom pole here. That's our ground pole. All right? I'm going to plug that in. Now, we are going to take a white wire. Now we're going to keep using the white wire for the neutral and the black for the power on this one, just so that we know where everything is, right? So let's take out a length of wire of the white and cut that, and we're going to use the stripper to strip the end. Okay. We're going to take one more spade connector, put that on there, take our pliers and squeeze it down into place. Make sure it's not going to come off. And then we take that one and we hook it up to the white side here. Now that's going to be our power coming in to the, when we plug in here, it's going to bring power in. This is going to be the power that goes into the transformer, as well as the black line that we're going to do now. We're going to cut another piece of black wire about the same length. And let's cut that. We're going to strip the end of it, just like we did the white wire. Pull that off. And then we're going to take another spade connector, put that on like so. Take and squeeze that into place with the pliers. All right. And that one's on there good now. And then we take that one and we connect it to the other pole here. Okay? So now, this is how it should look. We've got it set up, got the ground coming out, we've got our loops here, and then we've got our power coming in and our neutral line going out. When we turn it on, this will power the transformer. Now, the next step here is going to be bringing in the transformer, and the transformer is what we're going to be connecting up to the lights themselves. Now, let me grab that here. This is the transformer, the mean well transformer, and as you can see on here, we've got load, that's the power coming in, and then we've got the neutral, that would be the power moving out. Then we've got the ground line here, so we're going to be connecting the ground to the ground symbol. And then we are going to be, once we have that all hooked up, we're going to be connecting the positive and the negative of these poles so that we can then power this light. So next step is going to be hooking the wires up to here. Let's see, we'll take our green ground first, and we will take and strip the insulation off like so. And on this one now, we're going to connect one of these connectors so that we can connect it into the transformer. So let's get that on there like so, and we will squeeze it into position. Make sure that we have it in good shape there. All right, now this one we are going to take and we're going to connect to this pole here, which is the ground pole, okay? So let's loosen that up. Connect that in. All right, we're ready to go with that one. Now we're going to take the white line, which is what we're using for our load, and we're going to clean the insulation off the end of that. Like so. And we're going to use one of these claw connectors on that as well. So there we go. We crimp it down on there real good. There we go. It's not going anywhere. So now we take this one and we connect it up to the load side here. So we put that onto the L. Let's loosen the screw. Okay, on there it goes. All right, so we've got those two wires. Now, the one remaining is the neutral, the black wire. So let's take the insulation off that. Okay, use one more of the little claw connectors here. Get that on there, and let's crimp it into place. All right, that one's not going anywhere. Now this, we connect up to the neutral on here, as you can see, the N. So let's loosen this up. We have it in there now. And there we go. Now we have the transformer powered. Once we plug this in, it's ready to go. Now, You want to be really careful with this because this side of the whole setup is coming from your wall once you plug it in. So it'll shock you, it'll hurt you. So you want to be very careful with your connections at this point. Now, of course, the other ones are just 12 volt coming out and they're not going to hurt you, but this is the side you have to be very careful of, okay? Just telling you that ahead of time. Don't want you to get poked. So now, we're down to the end here. We need to take a wire. We're going to do the same thing that we did with these. We're going to take a black wire this time, and we're going to take a red wire that connects us up to this pole and a black wire that connects to this pole. Now, what that will be is there will be one powered from the plus side here, as you can see, and then there will be one powered from the negative side here. Not powered, but this will be the neutral side, okay? So that's what's next, is we're going to take a bit of the red wire and we will cut that off right there, and I'm going to take and use the wire stripper to strip both ends. Okay. Now, we're going to take and put these claw clips on both ends of that, okay? Because these two will be connecting to this pole here on the transformer as well as to the pole here for the light strip, okay? So let's get that hooked up. We've got that on there. I'll crimp it into place. There's one on there quite nicely. We're going to take another one on the other end. Okay. We're going to crimp that one into place. It's on there good. So we've got the red one ready to go. Now let's do the same thing with the black line. I'm going to cut about the same size piece here. Strip the end of it. And strip the end of the other side. One of the claw clips goes on here now. And we crimp it down. It's on there good, fantastic. We take one and we put it on the other side. Okay. You don't want any bare wires on the end or anything like that because you don't want to give anything the opportunity to short out. So there we go. We've crimped that down really well. So now we have a black one and we have a red one. Now, the red one we're going to take and we're going to run off the V positive poles here. Okay, that's in position there. We're going to take the black one, we're going to run it off the V negative side here, as you can see right here. We put that in there and connect it on down. Okay, now we have a black, we have a red. We have our red pole here. We have our black pole here. So now what we're going to want to do is we're going to take the black side and we're going to connect it to this black pole here. Now because we've put this bridge on here, it doesn't matter which one we connect it to, it's going to run power out to this side here, or it's going to be neutral, so it's going to run power back through. So let's open that up. And get our clip in there, tighten it down so So we've got that set up. We've got our LED strip here. And now the other side goes to this pole. And we're going to take the red wire and we're going to connect it to this pole here. Okay, so now we'll make sure everything is working fine, looks good. We've got it set up, we've got everything coming out from our negatives here. Now one more thing that we want to check is there's a switch inside of your transformer. If you have the same 350 watt transformer, this switch goes from a 115 or you switch it over inside of there. And if you can see that in there, it says 230. That's for European. We want it on 115 for ours, okay? So we make sure that that's set correctly. And we should be ready to go now. Nothing's crossed over. We've got our power switch here ready to go. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our power cord next and we are going to run that into here, plug it in. We're going to turn this on and with any luck, we're going to have light going through here. Now, once again, I have not connected yet the timer. We don't have the timer connected yet. That will be later on. Right now, we're just checking our circuit, and I'm showing you how the circuit is connected. Now that we've got it all wired up correctly, now let's go back over this again. I have wired I have it plugged in right now, so we're going to give it the big reveal here in a second. So just to make sure what I've done here first. So I've taken the ground, I've wired the ground into the ground here. I've taken the black wire, which is my load wire, and I've connected it up here to the L, the load setting on here, the load pole on here. I've taken the neutral, the white wire, and I've connected it to the N here, the neutral. All right, and so now, then I've taken the, I've gone with my load, with the black load here. I switched that around. So now I'm on the black, goes to the V plus, the positive side. That is the load side. And then on the negative side, I've put the red wire, okay? So we've got that. We've got the black wire going to the pole. This is the load pole. And then we have the red wire going to the neutral pole, which would be the return pole, so to speak. And we've got it hooked up to the red side and the load side of the LED strip. So the only thing that we've done here is we've bypassed the timer at this point. We haven't set up the timer yet, and we obviously haven't put the other strips on. So with that, let's see what happens here. I'm gonna move this over. With any luck, when I flip this switch, this should light up. All right, so here we go. Everything good? Let's hope it doesn't blow up. There we go. There we go. All right. They lit up. Okay. So here, as you can see, we've got power correct here. Now, let's turn the switch off. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that little bit of delay is because there's some power built up into the transformer. Okay. Success. We have everything set up correctly. So now what we need to do is we will have to wire, there's plenty of power coming out of this, so what we're going to have to do is we will set up another one of these poles for the fans. That's one thing that we have not done yet, is we have not wired in the fans. That's something that will have to be done. Now that's not going to be any problem, so we will wire the fans into one of the poles here and connect them up to the transformer. They will turn on when the timer goes on. Then the last thing that we'll have to do when we're putting this all into the box
is to hook up the timer, and I will go through showing you how that's done as well. So let's take a little bit of a break here. I'm going to clean everything off here. I'll bring the box in, and then we'll start doing the installation of all of these components into the box. So far, so good. This is going great. All right, stick with me. So now you can see we've got a complete circuit here, and we've been able to light up one of these strips. Now, it's going to be very important when you wire up the rest of this yourself that you keep all of the strips in the same order. You know, you're going to want to have the positive and the negative on the left and right on all of them. Otherwise, they're not all going to light up. Okay, so just keep that in mind throughout the rest of this assembly video, that you're going to want to, these are actually diodes, and you're going to want to have the power running in the same order on all of them. You know, there's not any way that you can have one going the other way with the positive on this side and on the other. So basically, when you're setting this up, make sure that you keep everything in the same order. One good way to do that is you can see on the strips themselves there is some writing on them. If you keep that writing facing up all the time when you're doing it, you're going to be fine. Any of them that are facing the other way is going to be a problem for you, okay? So thanks for watching this one. Give me a thumbs up and stay tuned for the next one. I'm still putting it together, but it's going to be out there real soon, all right? Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.